Hi, it's me again. Okay, check this out. I'm at my friend Sarah's Birdie's Cafe, which is next door to my house, and I'm going to start doing a segment called Baking at Birdie's. So I am going to start with this chocolate cake that I'm making for them to serve for dessert tomorrow. And I just melted down some cocoa and some boiling water, and it's come to room temperature, so I'm going to get started putting the cake together. Now that that is cooled, I've got my dry mixed ingredients in here that I'm going to just whiz for about 30 seconds just to get them all incorporated. That's good there. Now I'm going to add the butter, make sure it's softened. So now I'm just going to mix a quarter of this chocolate mixture in with the eggs and a little bit of vanilla. Let's do this. This is just to get this incorporated. Okay, so now I'm going to mix in the egg and cocoa mixture in 3 different batches, beating about 20-30 seconds after each third. Now that the ingredients are moistened, I'm going to turn this up to medium speed to start building the structure of the cake. So you know the drill, right? You've heard this before. Butter, paper, butter, flour. That's what you're going to do. So I got the paper in there. Oh! The muffins are done. I always like to give it a little tap to get that excess flour out of the corners. Remember that structure I was talking about? Woo! Look how beautiful. Okay, so now I'm going to put about half of the batter in each pan. Should fill up the pan about halfway full. You just want to push the batter out to the edge, kind of give it an even surface on the top. Don't work it too hard, you don't want to lose the structure. Can you hear the horns? Alright, that looks great. Okay, so I'm going to put those in about the center of the rack and the center of the oven. I'm doing basically a neoclassic buttercream, which is a little bit different than a classic buttercream, and I need to start with some egg yolks. So you can crack your eggs in a lot of different ways. You can use a knife, split the yolk, do the shell-to-shell thing, you know, however you get there. So I have these egg yolks in here. I'm just going to beat them until they get really light and fluffy and they triple in volume. But while this is going, I'm going to go get the corn syrup and sugar mixture ready. If you take cooking spray and spray it in a measuring cup, it'll help things like molasses and honey and Karo syrup and whatever come right out of the measuring cup. So I need 3/4 of a cup of Karo syrup. And I'm using dark. Alright, so I need a cup and 2 tablespoons of sugar. Don't you wish you had one of those at home? So I'm just going to mix this up, and I want to eventually bring this up to a boil. The one tedious thing about this frosting, but it's worth the time and effort, is that you have to constantly stir the sugar and corn syrup together until it comes to a rolling boil. And I'll show you what that looks like as soon as we get there. Alright, see those big bubbles? That's what you want. Now, get that stirred up really good, and then what I want you to do is pour that into a greased glass measuring cup. That'll stop the cooking, and the reason you grease the cup is the same reason you did the other measuring cup, so the liquid comes out. So those have tripled in volume. That's the color you want, that pale yellow. And what I'm going to do is pour the syrup into the mixer on a slow, steady stream. And you want to make sure you don't hit the blades because that'll whip the sugar around the side of the bowl. I've got all the syrup in here, and now I need to just beat this until the bowl and the mixture is completely cool. That's going to take a little bit. I've already cubed my butter, and it's at room temperature. The frosting has whipped down to it's cool, and I'm just going to add this 1 tablespoon at a time. There's a reason Michael just told me that they don't do it this way anymore. Oh, but we do at Birdie's. As if the buttercream wasn't enough, I'm going to turn this into a chocolate buttercream. So I've melted about 9 ounces of chocolate, and it's cooled at room temperature. Before I started doing this, I took about 3-4 cups of frozen mixed berries, and I heat them with about 1/2 cup of sugar until the liquid started to release, and they got all jammy and just messed up in the pan together. And I was slightly pressing them flat as they started to cook and come up to heat with the rubber scraper. And when that was done, kind of like breaking down, and I cooked it out and reduced it about half, I poured it into a sieve and pressed it through. So this is basically just some nice concentrated berry conserve. I like to leave a little bit of the seeds in there from the raspberries and the blackberries because, well, they're natural, they're supposed to be there. So to the conserves, I'm going to add about 1.5 cups of the fabulous chocolate neoclassical buttercream. I'm just going to fold this in. So I have carefully peeled the cake away from the paper, and I've got this parchment lined on here because when I frost the cake and I pull this away, it's going to give me a nice clean cake plate edge. So now I'm going to start frosting the sides of the cake and get the top done, and we'll talk a little bit later about what I'm going to do with that. Da, 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 da. You know my motto, anything worth doing is worth overdoing. That's why I decided to do a chocolate band around the cake. I'm going to kind of take a sharp paring knife and I'm going to kind of cut this really organic shape. I'm going to wrap it around the cake. It's going to be divine. So I've melted some chocolate. I'm just going to spread it out on this wax paper. And I've measured this to go around the circumference of the cake. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pour this on the paper. And you don't have to worry about being perfect, but you notice these dots right here underneath? Put a little dot of chocolate to hold the paper down, so while you're spreading, it'll be easier for you. Okay, so I got this out. Flat spatula works great for this. Hello, I'm back. Okay, remember that chocolate we spread out? It's starting to set now. So it's at the dull stage, and I'm just going to kind of cut some organic shape. Something just kind of really... I'm going to attempt to put this border on this cake, and I know it's going to be disastrous, so stay here because I know this is going to be funny. But basically what I want to do is wrap this around the cake. Get this nice and firm on there. Are you ready? This is gonna be the most awesome cake. Check this out. Look down here, down here, down here. Look it. See, this just peels right off. Watch. I have a seed here. I gotta watch. Boom, baby. That right there is a chocolate cake. So there it is, and thanks for spending time with me while I'm baking at Birdie's.